For the first time ever here in the Herr Sprint Series, we head north of the border in the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. This 2.71 mile road course in Montreal, Canada. And it is going to be an exciting weekend as not only the Sprint Series but the Cup Series coming here on Saturday. We get a bit of a preview of what we're going to see on Saturday in the 18th race of the Wawa Cup Series, here with the 19th race of the season in the Herr Sprint Series. We are here for 11 laps at Montreal, Canada for the Quebec Grand Prix here, race 19 of the season. It's Sprint Series night in Canada here from Montreal. Hello everybody, this is AG here and welcome to Montreal, Canada. We are here for the 19th race of the season and the third road course race of the season here for the Herr Sprint Series, and a huge preview to what we're going to see in the Wawa Cup Series on Saturday. First Saturday Wawa Cup Series race since April, by the way, as we're already here in June. We're excited to see how it goes on Saturday, and we're going to see 4 drivers advance on here tonight from this race, and we're going to have a cycle of pit stops as well to go along with it. Who knows how it's all going to shake out, but it's going to be a lot of fun for 11 laps to be a longer race than last week's event as well, so we'll be here for a little bit longer here for Sprint Series night in Canada and North America, I guess you can say. We're excited for it, and I'm joined alongside Matt Tuck, and hey, I know you're always excited for the Herr Sprint Series, but I know you're particularly excited for this one. This is the first ever race we have officially done on the channel here around the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Montreal, Canada. What do you expect to see here today in this one around this 2.71 mile road course?
Well, it should be an interesting race. You know, I mean, back in my day in 2004, I drove the Bill Davis racing car here, and it was kind of chaotic. So it's going to be fun to see these drivers get to take on this iconic road course. I think as far as road courses go, this has probably been the most requested track to be added to the schedule in the history of your channel. So this is going to be fun. This is a very different road course from anywhere else that we've ever been before. It's all flat. It's got some incredibly fascinating corners, and that iconic hairpin there with the wall of champions, Marcos Ambrose. This should be quite fun today.
It's going to be fascinating to see how it all ends up shaking out for these drivers here today, because a lot of these guys, they're relatively new as well. Not all of them, of course. And this is a very, very tricky racetrack. It's like Matt said, all the corners are flat, and it's going to be kind of interesting to see these guys go around this place. But hey, I'm excited to see how it ends up going down. And a bit of a testing ground for what we're going to see on Saturday as well in the Wawa Cup Series. And just like Matt said, probably one of the more requested tracks that we had to add onto the schedule. I mean, there was all that talk that NASCAR was going to add this schedule to the Cup Series. They didn't do it this year. I don't know if they're going to do it next year, but we're going to do it ourselves. You know, why not? And I tested this track out, and you know what? It surprised me. And it'll be unique here today, and I'm excited to see how it all goes down. Let's go ahead and get these guys to roll off. It's going to be a long pace lap for these drivers, and we'll get the points and then the starting grid during this pace lap. And of course, last week we had the Illinois 100 at Gateway. Chris Reynolds got that race victory. He starts on the pole for this race, by the way, as you can tell. And he's tied for second in the points with Alexander O, who is back, by the way. Alexander O back behind the wheel in this one. They are both 24 points behind Juan Romero, who is the 3-time winner of the season. You also got Vinny Scholes 32 points behind. Brandon Nelson, Balthazar Steep all tied as well for 4th in the points, 32 points behind. And, of course, all 3 of those drivers are in this race as well. You got Nathan Faden, 33 behind. Zayden Davidson, who unfortunately missed this race. Again, the tough break for Davidson. He was 37 behind. And then Dylan Matthews, also 37 behind. And Corey Case, 42 behind. We got a lot of ties there in that top 10. Like, Juan Romero's still the points leader. But Alexander O is back. Of course, he missed last week's race at Gateway. He is back, driving the number 57 for Andrews Racing. But it's Durrani Racing on the front row, and I know Ryan Durrani's been going through a lot lately personally, so great to see this team lock the front row, get the win last week as well at Gateway. And it's Chris Reynolds starting on the pole alongside the 69 machine, driven by Duncan Ward. A great opportunity for Duncan Ward to get his first career win on the channel. Then it's Trackhouse Racing rounding out row number 2. Got the 99 there of Carson Miller to the inside of Nathan Faden. Balthazar Steep and the 90 machine is Aaron Abel this week for Appalachian Motorsports. They've had a pretty good run as of late. 25 is Corey Case alongside the 93 there of Vinny Scholes. We got Joey Brown in the 53 machine of Josh Petty, Dylan Matthews and Juan Romero, Santiago Labarito and Skylar Taylor, Brandon Nelson, Matt Grice, second career start for the 4 machine there, Anthony McClure and Christian Master, and then 6 drivers who were not in last week's race. Leonard Kochmer in the 02, Stuart Gratton in the 64 machine for the home team, by the way, in a way. They're Entresys Motor Racing, Ladova Charette, the owner right there. And you got the 57 machine there of Alexander O to the inside of the 50, driven by Herr, Arvin Alonso. And then you got the 13 machine of Dylan Walker to the inside of the 96, driven by Matt Hunter. All right, Matt, you've seen the field, kind of seen the track as well. Who do you think is going to victory lane here today in Montreal, Canada?
Well, I think it's going to be a great race here today, and it's going to be a track position gamble, I believe. And I think one of these Durrani Racing cars here, I think Duncan Ward in the 69, he's going to take this Durrani Racing team to victory lane here today. It should be definitely a very cool thing to see for that team.
We're going to have to see what Duncan Ward can do. I will say one thing about the cycle of pit stops. About a 6-lap fuel run for these guys. You're going to see a bit of an IMSA stop here today, as Matt called it. They will be on the pit lane for an extended period of time after the jack initially drops. But everyone's going to do it, so it's not going to be like one driver gets away right away and the others don't. Going to be a bit of a different type of pit stop that we're going to see this weekend here in Montreal, but regardless of the fact, it's going to be very fun to see how it all goes down. All right, through the final 2 corners, turns 14 and 15, and on to the main straight. Here we go. We're green flag racing in Quebec, north of the border for the first time ever in the Herr Sprint Series, and the first time ever on the channel. We're green flag racing here in Montreal, Canada. It was a good clean start there for Durrani Racing. How about Chris Reynolds? We're going to go 2 in a row. And this right here is going to be a trouble spot. Carson Miller just slammed that outside wall right there. But it looks like everyone is generally going to get around it all right. Definitely an interesting corner right there for those guys. Now, there are a lot of passing opportunities and not a lot of grip on this racetrack either. And because of that, we're going to see ourselves a very interesting race here today. But Durrani Racing 1-2 with Chris Reynolds and Duncan Ward. Then you got Carson Miller and Nathan Faden. And Baltzar seat the top 5. And the Durrani guys have pulled away from the rest of the field here on this opening lap.
Yeah, Reynolds and Duncan Ward absolutely setting sail here, using that front row to their advantage, gapping the Trackhouse cars, gapping the 88 of Baltazar Steve, but they're just going to have to, I think their goal here for the first opening stint of this race is just try and maybe work together and build up a little bit of a gap. That 69 got a really good run there into the hairpin and now onto the Casino Straight. This is going to be fun to watch these two. I think these two are going to have a shot to battle each other here today. Lots of passing going on in the middle of the pack.
These guys are all over the place back in here. It'll be a little difficult to see just all the action that takes place here today around this 2.71 mile racetrack. But we're definitely excited to see how it all ends up shaking out and kind of give us an idea of what we might see on Saturday. But Chris Reynolds is going to pick up right where he left off from last week, leading lap number 1 here in the Quebec Grand Prix. Of course, he's going for 2 in a row, and he's trying to catch up to Juan Romero in the title. Of course, Romero a little bit further back in the field for this one to start off in 11th right there, and with Chris Reynolds ahead of him. Chris Reynolds is going to close in at the rate they are currently going, so we'll have to see how that ends up shaking out on the points at the end of the night. Brandon Nelson trying to get here on Santiago Labarito right here. Of course, it's still a road course. Passing isn't going to be that easy. This corner right here is definitely going to be one to watch out for. This little switchback and a lot of loose race cars that we're going to see right here. And right there, Labarito in the wall hard. And that's something we're going to see all weekend as well, as Brandon Nelson tries to make a move on the 5 machine. You also got Anthony McClure who's trying to rebound here. And how about Juan Romero trying to get around 2 guys in Josh Petty and Joey Brown? And you know what? He is going to get both of them. And even on a new racetrack, Juan Romero is still one of the best guys in this series.
Yeah, Juan Romero is a guy, I really think he's going to land himself a Wawa Cup Series ride with this performance he's put on next season. I think he's going to end up in a very quality ride next season. He's been doing a fantastic job this season in that SC Avalon car, which has been great to see. Well, the whole kerfuffle of cars down here into the hairpin, coming on to the long straightaway, heading down into the wall of champions. We got, I mean, this looks like it looks like an F1 race up here. We got 2 Durrani racing cars, we got 2 Trackhouse racing cars. They're really building a gap. And we see them, I mean, they're using this track up pretty well. Passing's very tough, but you can tell there's definitely going to be some overtaking by the way these guys just have a little bit of variation in all the lines they're taking.
And you know, one corner we may see some overtaking this weekend is turn 15, coming right to the start-finish line right there. You see how loose they get there off that corner? Alexander Rowe, I tell you, you know, a bit of a tangent off of what I was about to say right there. Alexander Rowe has really struggled since he started off the season. Remember, he started off the season 10 straight top 10s, and we're on race 19 now. He's gotten only 2 since that point. He even missed a race, and he has just struggled mightily these past races. He's yet to get a win here in the Sprint Series, even though he got a win over in the Wawa Cup Series, and right now he is last in the running order here in Montreal, and he didn't start there either. Somebody, I think, might have gotten into the wall right there. Not entirely sure. It might have been Brandon Nelson in the 92 machine. Oh, damn it. Oh, it was Dylan Matthews. Tough break for right there in the 39 machine there. Our Atlanta winner. You got Christian Master back in here. Alonso making some moves there in the 50 machine. Would like to thank Alonso for putting the graphics on this track. This is one of the harder ones to do, I think, for him in terms of getting the graphics to work out. And appreciate all his hard work in making these racetracks look the way they do. Of course, might not be able to see too many of our logos, but you still have that Wawa Cup Series logo there throughout one of the corners. Chris Reynolds still leading this field, but Duncan Ward is right there behind him, and a huge opportunity for Duncan Ward to get this win if he can, in fact, stay with this 52 once that cycle of pit stops begins. Meanwhile, you got these guys battling it out. Vinny Scholes and Baltazar Steep here in the top 10. You also got the 99 there, Carson Miller. He just got passed by Nathan Faden. This is the kind of race Nathan Faden could win. He's definitely a solid driver, and we'll have to see what he can do as they get through turns 14 to 15. And uh-oh, Carson Miller's got a problem.
That's not good.
Carson Miller, I think, you know, remember, Carson Miller took a hard lick to that outside wall on that first lap, and I'm wondering if they're repairing the damage on that 99 machine. Also, Skylar Taylor coming down the pit lane as well. And I can't imagine these are scheduled stop for these guys. It's a bit too early on for that at this point.
Yeah, that's a little bit outside of the... That is a little bit outside of the window here that both of these drivers are going to need to be able to make it here to the end. We're not going to be able to undercut the Durrani racing machines because they just keep building the gap. As you see Reynolds and Duncan Ward heading off into, I believe, what's been renamed this weekend to the Ludovic Charette corner, which is really awesome to see. Our hometown hero who's driving the 51 and he's going to win Sunday. I didn't say that, but that's a tough one there for those guys who are pitting. And Carson Miller was having a fantastic run and has really shown out the past couple of weeks. Hadn't heard much of him heading into this season, but I feel like I've said his name a lot the past couple of weeks, which is also good for him.
You know, Carson Miller has had a pretty good start to his career on the channel. And, you know, 2 top 10s in his first 4 starts, not too bad for the driver of the number 99. And these guys are just coming off the pit lane, by the way, as well. That extended stop, like I was saying, they're on there for quite some time. And our race leaders are going to be on there for quite some time as well once they get to their cycles. Of course, granted, too, I think they were on for a while to repair damage. They're right on each other right there with Carson Miller and Skylar Taylor. And, you know, that 55 machine was a little ways behind the 99 as well, so Taylor's going to move up on that 99. Going to be interesting to see if something like that ends up happening with our race leaders. Juan Romero coming down now in the 87, and I'm wondering if this might be a little bit of strategy play for some of these guys. Maybe come down a little bit earlier on and go for a later strategy later on. I don't know if that's necessarily what they're doing, but interesting to see Juan Romero come down, Labarito as well, Dylan Matthews in the 39. Of course, she has a lot of damage to her car in that one. But we'll see. And you can see right here, Juan Romero just kind of, the jack drops and they just stay there. And they're going to stay there for an extended time. Not entirely sure what the deal is with that in terms of the game, but everybody's going to be doing it this weekend, and definitely going to create an interesting race on Saturday in the Wawa Cup Series. That is for sure. How about Nathan Faden? He's closed right in on these Durrani Racing guys. Up to third right now, that one machine, and right there on Duncan Ward and Chris Reynolds. We're going to have to see how well he can do as this cycle warms up. Romero's going to finally get out right there. He was the first one down of those guys. And we'll see how far ahead he gets on Carson Miller. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good stop there for that 80-17. We'll have to see how that affects him as this race plays out.
The guy it's not currently affecting is this 52 of Chris Reynolds, who's just been hitting his marks every single corner. Duncan Ward got close to him really on the first 2 laps, but since then he got himself about 0.8 of a second, 0.7 at the moment. And he's just holding that gap over Duncan Ward, who's having a great run. 4 Mustangs in the top 4. We love to see that here. And it's going to be an interesting cycle to see as these guys get closer. And we will have to follow some of those drivers in the middle of the pack, especially Carson Miller, because Carson Miller is out there somewhere on some clean racetrack. And I don't really know what the tire fall off is like.
Stuart Gratton's coming
Stuart
down.
Gratton pit. But Carson Miller, I'm going to be kind of curious to see if maybe he's going to try and stretch it or do something crazy. He's got clean racetrack. He was running in 4th. Maybe he can jump to the lead. Should be interesting to see.
Well, Romero is well further out ahead than Carson Miller, and he also has a clean racetrack ahead of him. So if anyone's going to take the lead off of this, it's going to be Romero in that 87 machine. So it's going to be fascinating to see what he ends up doing. Meanwhile, back up front, of course, it's still Chris Reynolds, Duncan Ward, and Nathan Faden. Baltzar Steep and Vinny Scholes right there. These guys right on each other. Aaron Abel, Aaron Abel's a guy, he's made every race this season here in the Herr Sprint Series, and he's 15th in points. He is deep in the points for someone who has made every start this year. Only Anthony McClure is below him in terms of guys who have made every start this year. And if I'm not mistaken, oh boy, not a good run there for Baltzar Steep. And Vinny Scholes is going to take that position away. And so will Aaron Abel. I was just about to say, I'm pretty sure Aaron Abel, though, is the last driver this season who does not have a full-time ride, who has made every start this year after Alex Monroe failed to make it to Gateway. So huge congratulations to Aaron Abel for doing that. The only downside is he's been absolutely terrible this season in the Sprint Series. Once you go figure, but Chris Reynolds is going to lead him down here for the cycle of pit stops for our race leaders, and everybody should be coming down this time, as we are going to be past halfway here in this Quebec Grand Prix. And this is going to be a very interesting cycle because, we don't know how long these guys are going to be on the pit lane for how long, and it's going to be fascinating to see if Chris Reynolds can, in fact, hold on to this race lead with Duncan Ward and Nathan Faden right behind him. A lot of these guys as well, also only taking 2 tires, which is a very fascinating strategy. I'm not entirely sure if that's necessarily the way you want to go, but we're just going to have to see if that ends up playing out for these guys. But Chris Reynolds there, you see him in the 52 machine. Now the big question is, how long will they end up taking on the pit lane, and will Juan Romero be able to close in on them? This is definitely the kind of race Juan Romero could win, especially in a very spectacular fashion. And, of course, Juan Romero looking for his 4th win of the season here in the Herr Sprint Series. Only Eric Monaco and Corey Case have won multiple times this year, and neither of them are full-time drivers. So Chris Reynolds would love to join that group here today, and he's going to get off right here. And all 3 of these guys are going to be right on each other. Faden, however, might actually make a move on Duncan Ward right here. As you see Romero coming across the start-finish line right here. And Nathan Faden. Faden's going to have a good opportunity of winning this race here because that number 1 machine closed in on the Durrani guys, and now he passed one of them. He's going to try to get to the other one.
He was a little bit cheeky there on the exit of the pits as he cut over that pit line, but he's used it to his gain. He got pretty close there to that 52, put a little bit of pressure on him into the first couple of corners. Now heading down into turn 6, we'll just have to see his future. I don't know. It took a couple laps for this one machine to come in, but once it did come in, he really was able to start to reel in the gap to those 2 Durrani racing machines. And I think Juan Romero, our point leader, is going to cycle into about 5th. We'll have to keep an eye on this because this is going to be interesting in the championship. If he can try and stretch it the rest of the race, that could be massive. This is going to be an interesting way to see how this plays out here with the strategy and this potential battle brewing up front.
And I'm intrigued to see, just like you said, if Romero can in fact make it the whole way, because that is huge towards the championship, because Reynolds is in a position to still gain on Romero regardless, but if Romero can't make it to the end of this race and has to end up falling back, Reynolds is going to really gain on him and could even maybe take the race or points lead away if things shake out a certain way. Of course, Chris Reynolds in a great position. He's led every lap so far in this race. But Nathan Faden trying to get his second win of the season. Faden got the win at Texas earlier on this year. This is anything but Texas here in Montreal, Canada. We'll have to see if Faden can, in fact, get his second win of the season. But you know what? These 5 guys are still right on each other. No one's really, even though Reynolds has led every lap so far in this race, he is really not pulled away from the field here. And I'm intrigued to see how it ends up shaking out for him as this race plays out here. We only got 4 laps to go here in the Quebec Grand Prix. Great racing back here. You got Aaron Abel. Aaron Abel did not have a good pit stop. He's really falling back. His teammate here, Jalarvin Alonso, has gotten around him right there in the 50 machine. You got Stuart Gratton, who came down there on lap number 5 instead of lap number 6. Lap 5 into lap 6. He should be able to make it here. We'll have to see what he can do with the 96 of Matt Hunter right ahead of him. A good run for Anthony McClure. Baltzar Steep. Remember, Baltzar is one of those guys who was actually up front. And Carson Miller as well. And all these guys, they kind of just follow each other. They follow the line, and out about Alexander Rowe continuing the struggle. He's got a lot of damage on that 57 machine right now.
Yeah, this has been such a fascinating tale of the tape for Alexander Rowe this season. Starts the season off on a just unbelievable hot streak for an equal rating series. 10 top 10s in a row is just unbelievable. And then has since done nothing. Has done nothing since, has lost the championship lead. It's been a struggle for Alexander Rowe. Hopefully to see him get that mojo back here. Because if Juan Romero does happen to pit, Chris Reynolds has a very, 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 very good shot to walk away from this race with the championship lead. And we could have a 3-way battle absolutely brewing up here in this championship between Reynolds, Romero, and Rowe. But Rowe's going to need to step it up too. And his days like today are not good for his chances. But shout out to Ronnie Racing. They're having an absolutely fantastic day here. Double podium. And it was really great to see for Ryan Durrani.
Love to see this team run well, especially in recent weeks. And Chris Reynolds is the full-time driver for this team in the Sprint Series. Got the win at Gateway last week. And here he is trying to fend off Nathan Faden for this win here in Montreal, Canada. Be huge for Chris Reynolds to go 2 in a row here in the Sprint Series if he can, in fact, pull it off. And Duncan Ort's done an excellent job as well. No doubt the best run Duncan has had since he began running here in the Sprint Series. I think his first start was South. I want to say it was South Boston, I think. I remember you called that race. Of course, you've called most of the races this season, of course. But I remember he led a few laps in that race. Of course, a lot of guys led laps in that one.
That was a race.
That definitely was a race. It was a fun race, too. Definitely a fun one. And this one's been a different type of fun here. Even though Reynolds has led every lap so far, it's still not over yet. And he's got to be careful not to make a mistake. We've seen drivers make mistake, overshoot these corners. Speaking of mistake, where did Vinny Scholes go? Oh, no.
Oh,
she was okay. So I was about to say, when you were talking about Juan Romero, Alexander Rowe, Chris Reynolds, Vinny Scholes is right there as well, 32 points behind in that title race. And that is a mechanical problem on the 93 machine that is going to take her out of contention. She's going to probably finish last because I don't think that 93's got enough power to make it to the end here. That is a shame for Vinny Scholes. I'm not sure if she got sent into the wall or what by Juan Romero, but that's huge right there. And now Chris Reynolds not going to gain quite as much if Reynolds, or should I say Romero, ends up finishing where he is, because that 87 is right there. We got 2 laps to go here in the Quebec Grand Prix. Nathan Faden trying to close in on Chris Reynolds for this top position. And he is right there, only 0.6 of a second behind this 52 machine. I'm sure he would love for someone to throw a shoe out on the racetrack to affect Chris Reynolds' day.
Yeah, a little shoe through the air intake in the bottom of the nose would be very helpful for Nathan Faden right now. Unfortunately, I don't know if that wish is going to come to him, but through turn 6 and 7 here in this S chicane, rounding down one of the short back straightaways under the GoDaddy Bridge. This has been a fantastic day from Chris Reynolds. He's so far led every lap. He started from the pole, and I believe he has the fastest lap to this point of the race. So he's about a lap and a half away from hitting the grand slam here, but he's going to have to be very careful that he does not slide that corner coming onto the back straightaway down here into the hairpin on the final lap. We saw Baltazar Steep do it. Baltazar Steep isn't in the top 10 anymore. So this is going to be an intense final lap here for Chris Reynolds. He's going to have to hit his marks perfectly if he wants to win this.
And I think it's fitting, too. Both of these drivers have been racing on the channel for many years, so it's not like they're rookies in any such way. Both full-time here in the Sprint Series this season, both going for the championship. And Chris Reynolds would love to get back in the Cup Series. I know Nathan Faden would love to get into the Cup Series as well. The champion of the Sprint Series makes it into the Cup Series as a reserve next year, and I know there's a lot of heat in that silly season that's brewing behind the scenes. Anyways, white flag in the air here in Montreal for Chris Reynolds and Durrani Racing, trying to do the perfect sweep, a wire-to-wire win here in this Quebec Grand Prix. Nathan Faden trying to close in. He really hasn't closed in by much. It's really just going to take a mistake out of Reynolds for anything to happen. Romero is still out there in the 4th position, and how about Corey Case in 5th? You know, he did not have a good run at all last week in Gateway. Definitely rebounding here, and Corey Case with a great run there for Dracoan Racing Enterprises. We're going to focus here on Chris Reynolds and Nathan Faden, though. Faden going to do all he can to really close in on this 52, if possible. Reynolds has to be careful not to overshoot any of these corners, because if he does, it's going to ruin his race and give Faden a shot at race victory.
Down this short chute down here into the turn 8, 9, and 10 complex. This has been a fantastic day here for Chris Reynolds as he's going for the Grand Slam here in the Quebec Grand Prix. Doesn't slide it too bad. Nice and clean on exit down one of the back straightaways into the casino hairpin, and then down the home stretch to the Wall of Champions. That's his last challenge here on this circuit, is to not Ambrose it. And if he doesn't Ambrose it, he's going to be the winner here today.
It's going to be 2 more corners for him. And we're going to have to see how well he gets through turns 14 and 15 in this one. He's been perfect all day. And I tell you, nothing is ever set in stone here in any of these races on the channel until that checkered flag is officially waving above the winner's car. We're going to have to see what Reynolds can do right here. That's a clean exchange. That's enough for the win. Chris Reynolds is going to go back-to-back here in the Herr Sprint Series. Reynolds is going to get the win. Once again, he gets it in the Quebec Grand Prix. Nathan Faden will finish 2nd. And then Duncan Ward, Juan Romero, and Corey Case, the top 5. And Reynolds going to be racing on Saturday along with Faden. Duncan Ward going to be in the Canadian Grand Prix on Saturday, and saw Will Juan Romero in the 87. These guys kept it pretty clean here today, and I'm proud of that. We had a couple of moments right there. Vinny Scholes and Carson Miller going to both fail to finish, but you know what? We're going to be going twice as long, 21 laps on Saturday in the Cup Series, and you know those ratings are going to really come into effect on who's good and who's not. Going to be a much different race on Saturday, especially with 2 cycles of pit stops as well in that one. But Chris Reynolds gets it done here tonight in the Quebec Grand Prix in Montreal. Nathan Faden's got the fastest lap, which means that he will start on pole next week at the Iowa Speedway. Let's see how that works out for him. Both start Steve Dillon Matthews, and then Chris Reynolds, and then the 93 machine of Vinny Scholes with the 5th fastest time. Take a look at the rest of the fastest laps right there. That is how they'll line up for Iowa for those who do make it on to next week's race. And, of course, everyone else who signs up here, and the sign-ups are going up pretty much now. So we'll see you guys there for that one. Well, how about that for Chris Reynolds, the race winner? And he won by less than a second there on Nathan Faden. But you know what? I think this was the calm race, and I feel like on Saturday things are going to get a bit wild. What do you think we're going to see in the Tim Hortons Canadian Grand Prix on Saturday?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I mean, Chris Reynolds got himself some quality laps times heading into Saturday to be rewarded with driving the 11 car. So he's going to have a little bit of an up. I think we're going to see, I mean, you're going to see 40 cars let loose on this racetrack. Today we have 24. Saturday we're going to have 40. That is, you know, anytime you throw more cars on the racetrack creates a different dynamic. You're going to have that intensity of just, you know, we're heading into the chase, and I think it's going to be a very intense race. It's going to be a very track position heavy race. And I think you're going to see a lot of like this drive here by Chris Reynolds today. Guys are going to have to be just perfect on those margins and not make mistakes if you want to win and survive another day to head up to the cornfields of Iowa in your good points positions. But it's going to be very intense Saturday. I look forward to it. I think Chris Reynolds does as well.
It's going to be a fun one, no doubt about it, and definitely one of the more anticipated events of the season for the Wawa Cup Series. And it's going to be very fascinating to see how it affects the chase as well, because you know that's a tight one, and you got a lot of guys battling right around that cutoff point. You're one of them, Ladovic's one of them as well. We'll just have to see how it ends up shaking out. It's going to be a lot of fun for the Tim Hortons Canadian Grand Prix this Saturday at noon Eastern Time. First Saturday race in quite some time. Right here on AG, the channel we're excited for. Congratulations to Chris Reynolds for getting it done here in the Herr Sprint Series from Montreal. He'll join Faden, Ward, and Romero in the Cup race on Saturday. And we'll see you guys from Iowa Speedway next Wednesday night for the Iowa 150. Of course, sign-ups for that are already up right now. Go ahead and sign up if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much for watching once again. On behalf of Matt Tuck, here are the points for the Herr Sprint Series after 19 races. And congratulations to Chris Reynolds once again for getting the win here in the Quebec Grand Prix. I will see you guys later.